What's up, guys? Lucky Locks here. Welcome back to another prediction video. This is going to be for PFL Challenger Series Week 4. We got featherweights on deck this time, and this should be a good card. Should be some good matchups on here. And with that said, let's get right into the first fight on the card. And that first fight is going to be Scottie Stockman versus Brahyan Zurcher. Stockman was a 5-1 amateur with 5 knockouts, lost his pro debut via armbar, came back with 3 straight wins and 2 knockouts after that, and won a pro boxing match via knockout as well in that time. He's training at Rufus Sport, working closely with Anthony Pettis there, and his father was a Golden Gloves boxer. Scottie decided to continue that tradition, became an Oregon Golden Gloves champion. His boxing is really clean, really crisp, really vicious body shots. He was also on the wrestling team at Southern Oregon University. Seen some good wrestling from him on tape. Heavy pressure from the top, able to hold guys down pretty well. Looks to be a very physically strong fighter. Can land some bombs when he gets his opponent grounded as well. Zurcher has traded wins and losses as an amateur for 6 fights. He finished up 3-3 in his amateur career, and he's now 2-0 as a pro with a 100% finish rate, 2 submissions. Actually finished all of his wins as an amateur as well. He's training at Extreme Couture. His level of competition as a pro, though, has not been strong. He fought a 1-3 fighter who's now 1-5, and also a debuting fighter. The stand-up from Zurcher can be a little bit wild at times, but he is a submission threat on the ground. In his last fight, he had his back taken within the first 30 seconds, however, and got dominated, to be completely honest, in the first round there. Had his back controlled the majority of the time. His opponent got full mount near the end, and that round did end with Zurcher working on a triangle that looked pretty tight. To start the second round, he goes for a takedown and gets reversed, found himself back on bottom within 30 seconds, and eventually he did find an arm triangle from bottom there and get the win, but it wasn't looking too good before that. I think that Scottie Stockman is the better striker. I also think he's the better wrestler in this matchup, and I actually feel pretty good about him in this spot. I feel like he opens this card up with a win. Next up, we have Gyeom Lee and Boston Salmon. Lee was supposed to be fighting Josh Blyden in this spot originally. Has a replacement here in Boston Salmon. Lee started his pro career 5-1, but in his last 6, he's 3-3 now. He has losses to Mark Striegel, also to Ali Al-Casey on UAE Warriors. That was his most recent fight, lost a decision there. But he's 2-1 overall in that promotion and actually won the featherweight belt in his debut and had 1 defense. So he's been reasonably successful over there thus far. He has an 88% finish rate over his pro career, 5 knockouts, and got a round 1 knockout to win the UAE Warriors belt over Rolando Dai, and another round 1 knockout in his first and only defense. All 3 of his latest wins have come via round 1 knockout. He's very fast in the cage, sometimes keeps his hands a little low, but he does have good power in his hands, and he's looking for that knockout early, that's for sure, and I think we can kind of say that about both guys in this matchup. Boston Salmon was a 3-0 amateur and had a flaming hot 4-0 start to his pro career over in RFA. Then he lost a split decision, but went on Dana White's Contender Series and got a win over Ricky Tercios. So he gets booked against Augusto Mendes, but Mendes gets hurt. Then he gets booked against Jaime Barcelos, but Salmon gets hurt. Then he gets booked against Khalid Taha. Taha tears his ACL, and we finally see him in the real UFC cage almost 2 years after that Contender Series fight, and it was a rebooking of that Khalid Taha matchup. So Taha KO'd him in under 30 seconds. In his next fight, he gets another shot in the UFC against Randy Costa, gets KO'd in 2.5 minutes after that, and then he gets cut from the UFC. Goes to LFA and wins a fight by disqualification, and he basically got knocked out there as well, and I'll touch on that in a minute. So Salmon has heavy shots in the feet. He has knockout power. You can really hear the thud when he lands. Can be a little bit too relaxed on defense and get cracked himself. However, same could be said about Lee in this matchup. But Salmon has been KO'd in 2 of his 3 losses, has 4 knockouts of his own, but doesn't have any of them after the year 2015. From 2016 on, he is 2-3, and one of the wins was a disqualification. And let me just talk about that fight for a second. He got rocked bad in that fight and fell to his knees. Looked like the end was near as it was, and then his opponent hits him with an illegal knee and pretty much sends him to the shadow realm. It was, it's pretty ugly to watch if you go watch that one. It was pretty illegal knee and caught him really clean. He was definitely hurt after that one. So he was knocked out twice in a row on UFC in the first round, then fights a really close round 1 with Sean West, who I believe was 16-10 at the time on LFA, and gets cracked in the second round to the point where it looked like it was going to be another KO loss. And then he takes probably the worst shot he's taken in his whole career, which was that illegal knee. Grappling-wise, he stuffed 5 takedowns in that fight against Ricky Tercios. Haven't seen a ton of grappling from him lately. Shot only 1 takedown in his UFC career. And, that whole UFC stint lasted less than 3 minutes in total. We did see a bit of clinch work from him on LFA. I don't have a fantastic read on this fight other than the fact that I seriously doubt it goes 3 rounds. That would probably be my favorite angle here. I haven't played anything on that yet. Lee has an 88% finish rate and has been finished in 75% of his losses. 4 out of Salmon's 6, I guess technically 7, including disqualification wins, have come by KO, and he's been KO'd in 2 of the 3 losses, and technically 1 of his wins, so pretty much 3 times in a row. And that's just too many for me. At a pick'em price, I like Lee. I was hoping he'd be the underdog, which he was at the open, but now as an even money favorite, I'm not really as interested in his money line. I don't mind Lee knockout, don't mind Lee round 1, don't even mind Salmon round 1, to be honest, at a really big number. I don't mind the unders here, and I don't mind the fight doesn't go the distance. But if I have to pick a side, I am going to side with Lee here. Just seen Salmon's chin cracked too many times. All right, big fight in the co-main event here. We have Edwin Cooper Jr. coming up against Troy Lamson. Cooper Jr. is a 5-1 Jackson Wink fighter. 4 of his fights have been on LFA, and he's actually one of my favorite prospects in the LFA at the moment. I really like Edwin Cooper Jr. Coming in on 3 straight wins right now and has looked very, very dominant over that span. Even in the fight that he lost, he was completely having his way until getting caught in that armbar. He was pretty much dominating that first round, to be completely honest. We've truly barely gotten to see any striking from him, however, unless it's from the top on the ground. He usually can just get takedowns at will. He is an amazing wrestler, was a junior college national champ, then went on to wrestle at Iowa, and he's been able to use that base to absolutely dominate guys in the LFA. He's a great scrambler. He has suffocating top pressure, really good ground and pound, finished 3 out of his 5 wins. And his last fight, to be honest, I can't believe that wasn't stopped. Really was not competitive. It was a bit of a beatdown, to be honest. He's a tremendous athlete. Big featherweight at 6 feet, and he's coming up against Troy Lamson here, who was an undefeated amateur, kept it rolling into his pro career, and started off 5-0. So then after that, he loses 2 straight in 2016. Those losses come to Justin James, who obviously went on to be in the UFC, and Nick Brown, who became an LFA champ and is now looking really good in Bellator at the moment. And then after those 2 losses, Lamson wins another 7 straight. We were supposed to see him on LFA after that, and that was going to be against Arthur Estruzoulis. That didn't end up coming to fruition. Ends up getting a fight against Alex Munoz and lost a decision in a lightweight title bout. Munoz went on to have a UFC stint. He is 0-2. I'm honestly not sure if he's still rostered in the UFC, but Lamson was choked out in round 1 by Jesse Ronson in his last fight, so he's coming into this one on a 2-fight losing streak, also on a 2-year layoff. Also, he hasn't really fought at 145 that much in his career, been more of a lightweight fighter, coming down to 145 here, so we'll see how he looks. He's 6'1", so this matchup will feature 2 very big featherweights. He was training at Sanford MMA and Murcielago MMA according to his introduction in his last fight. Not sure where he's training at now. I mean, those gyms aren't really that close to each other, geographically speaking. Lamson will have the reach advantage here, 6'1", 75-inch reach at 145. That's quite big. I have actually seen him listed at 5'8" before, but I've seen him listed at 6'1" a lot more, so I'm going to go with that. Always with these regional fights, we're going to have to see what they look like at weigh-ins, because you never know with the measurements, but I expect he'll be a similar size to Edwin Cooper Jr., if not slightly bigger. He will have about 3.5 inches on Edwin Cooper Jr. in this one. Lamson has some high kicks, some side kicks. I'm not super impressed with his striking, but I don't have much to compare it to against Edwin Cooper Jr., who we haven't really seen much of that from. Lamson has a 77% finish rate with 4 knockouts, has taken some big shots on the chin. We've seen him get dropped before, but he has never been actually finished by strikes, only by submission. He's got 6 submissions of his own, actually wrestled at Michigan State in college, so a good wrestling base. We have seen him get taken down before, however. This is an interesting matchup because the strength is wrestling for both of these guys. So much so for Edwin Cooper Jr. that he really hasn't had to use much striking at all thus far in his career. Normally, he's pretty much able to do whatever he wants in the wrestling, and this might be the first match where we see him push in that department. But Cooper Jr. will be the fresher guy, in my opinion. He's been more active, piling up a lot of really good momentum, and I'm going to pick him to win here. It's a bit of a question mark on the feet, but I believe Edwin will be more explosive, will be applying pressure. I think the wrestling will probably be competitive well, but I just have to edge to the younger, more active guy in Edwin Cooper Jr. here. That's going to bring us up to the main event. We have a good matchup between Reinaldo Ekson and Mike Barnett. Ekson is a Pitbull Brothers product. He is the EFC featherweight champ currently. He's riding 3 straight wins, 3-0 in the EFC since he debuted in 2019, and all 3 of those have been submission finishes. He's got 7 submissions in his career, has a very nice record of 17-5, lots of good experience. It says 5-9 in Tapology. I believe he's actually closer to 5-7, but once again, like I always say, we'll have to wait till the weigh-ins to really see. Striking-wise, he's a good striker. He has some power. He has some round 1 knockouts on his resume. All submissions in EFC so far, but we've seen him have lots of success on the feet. We've seen him knock guys down. He's got heavy low kicks and a really strong ground game. He's demonstrated that pretty much every single time he stepped into the EFC cage so far. He's got 3 fights, 2 of them with the title on the line, 3 submission finishes, good muscular build as well. Looks like a good athlete. Mike Barnett is going to be standing across the cage from him in this one, and Barnett had a really hot 8-1 start to his career, and then in 2019 he made his debut on LFA, and he lost a decision to a 13-8 Clay Harbison there. Harbison was an Ultimate Fighter prospect that had a short UFC stint afterwards, but after that loss, Barnett KO'd 2 low-level opponents, 0-9 and 0-1 guys, and then was defeated by Jesse Butler, who was 7-4 at the time. And then after that loss, he went on to knock out a 2-10 fighter. So I'd say he's faced a significant amount of resistance when getting a step up in competition from what we see on paper. He's got a 73% finish rate. All of his finishes have been knockouts. He's not the most technical out there, but he has decent power. He's got some strong body shots. The striking defense is not great, in my opinion. I don't think that his grappling is going to be on par with Ekson here. I think Ekson has fought the much better competition between these two. He's got the better resume on paper, and he also passes the eye test as well. I've really liked what I've seen from him on tape, especially in comparison to Mike Barnett coming into this one. I don't really think Barnett is going to have a whole lot for Ekson anywhere, to be honest. I feel like if Barnett is going to win this fight, his most likely path to victory is going to be an early KO in the first round. But I think that Ekson is going to be able to get his way in this matchup. I feel like he's probably going to be able to find a finish, maybe in the second or third round. And I feel like if he does, that will probably come by submission. So my pick in this one is going to be Reinaldo Ekson. And I actually parlayed him with Scottie, Stockman, and I was able to get even money on those 2 guys. So that's going to do it for my PFL Challenger Series Week 4 featherweight breakdown, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Much appreciated everyone who takes the time to tune in. Best of luck this Friday. Best of luck UFC this Saturday. And as always, guys, I will catch you on the next video.